Thank you, Bhaiya. Greetings from Melbourne. So I'll give you a very practical. See, I come from a very corporate world, so I'm really privileged to be in the company of such esteemed professionals. So I'll give you a very practical viewpoint from the way I see the world is moving. Like I said, I work in corporate, so that's what I did, and that's what I do. But there is no such thing as job security. Let's say the job security, inverted commas. Like my father worked for the same company for 40 years. Those days are gone. You can pretty much, if you think that there is such a thing as job security, pretty much, I'll say you must be dreaming. Sorry to be harsh, but that's what the reality is. But so if you take the education model, education industry is pretty much even now, a lot of countries are still following the 19th century model in a lot of ways. So 19th century was the industrial age. It was the Henry Ford era, call it Henry Ford, the How era, HOW. So if you talk management terms, is what we call management by instructions. My great grandfather probably would have gone to work, and 9 to 5, that's what he will be forced to do, and no fun at the workplace. This is how you will do. Don't smile, and that's it. 9 to 5 or whatever time frame. As we now came from the only noble professions that existed in the 19th century was either be a doctor or an engineer. Anyone, like if my father was, I know because I did my first degree in science, because my father being an engineer coming from India, he said, son, no pressure, go become a doctor. So if I did an arts degree, I must be really having no brains whatsoever. So as we come from that 19th century era, which is the how era, you come to the 20th century, then knowledge became power. Okay, so business schools like Harvard Business School and Wharton Business School, all that popped up. So if you go to a doctor in the 1960s, essentially whatever the doctor tells you is gospel, because we didn't know anything better, because we had no information. So it was basically, that was how the structure was. But something magical happened in the 1990s. Google appeared, Wikipedia came, changed the whole world. So now we don't even talk about internet. We talk about Google. Google is like it's actually a brand. So we say, let me Google up. So if you go to a doctor, the doctor better be sure, because the patient is actually gone and done the research, probably knows much more than the doctor at times, and that's how the world is, right? So we've come from the how era to what we call the what era, WHAT, which was the knowledge, information age. We've gone past the information age. We are in the 21st century now. It's the Y era, WHY, or management by values. So all the youngsters, the 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, they all have a dream. They have aspirations. They actually want to live a free spirit. They don't want to be having any bosses they want to report into. So that's a dangerous place to be, because why alone on his own is dangerous. So you need a why, the what, and the how. So when I remember 2006, when the Khan Academy popped up, the education model was flipped on his head, and everyone, all the big Ivy League schools, the Harvards and the Wharton Business Schools, etc. That's it. That's just a fad. When you have 10 million students a month online, learning online, I'm talking about 2006, 7, 8, those years. So he basically flipped the whole education. So this was already coming. C19 happened to be what I call, instead of saying COVID-19, it's a correction 19. It's a leveler. It's leveled the whole.
That's a wonderful terminology.
Yeah, it is a correction 19. It's basically just flattened the whole thing. No more. If someone has actually done an MBA 12 months ago, or someone harping about it like I did my MBA 15 years ago, you must be kidding. Because if you actually pass out of university today, you're already behind the ball game. That's how fast the world is moving. So we are no longer in the information age. We are in the conceptual age, the age of ideas. Now, ideas is where the opportunity comes, where there is a lot of opportunities for anyone and everyone who can go on to have a job. And I'm saying have a job, whatever job that is. Now, it's no longer a new job. It's like, we have the blue collar workers and the white collar workers. I'm calling it the new collar workers. It's a new collar worker who has actually got a completely different mindset, content creation, creativity, as Bhaiya said, strategic thinking. You talk about design thinking, talk about innovation. All these are attributes which are required for the 21st century talent. Now, there is no shortage of people on the planet. There is 7.7 billion people on the planet. But what is missing is talent. That's a big difference. And a lot of people mistake talent for just saying number of people. We can actually get arms and legs, but idea is to think, and thinking is the hardest discipline. If we can actually put our minds to this, opportunities are endless. And what does that mean for personal branding? Now, think about it practically. You may know, in the corporate world, you exchange business cards. How much do you pay for a business card to be printed? You might get all the fancy designs and everything. You might spend 25 cents, let's say, for a business card. Where do you think the business card goes and ends up? In the bin, literally in 3 hours. If you're lucky, they might keep it for maybe 1 more hour. They'll do a scan and then it goes in the bin. So instead of spending 25 cents to 30 cents for a business card, why don't you spend $1 and have your own book? Which means a book they will never ever throw in the bin, because they might gift it to someone. But that positions you instantly. So I was based in Dubai, Professor, as you know, for some time. When I come back home to Melbourne, people don't ask me how are the tall buildings in Dubai. There are many tall buildings in Dubai, but there is only one Burj Khalifa. There is a 1 kilometer tall building, inch wide, mile deep, all the way. So you position yourself in the midst of all these amazing buildings. You stand out like Burj Khalifa. That is positioning. And when you position yourself as an authority, instead of you trying to sell, because we all have to sell, a parent to a child has to sell, a teacher to a student has to sell. The fact that you're listening to me, I'm trying to sell you something, maybe some value add. The fact, because time is the most precious commodity for anyone, more than money. So if you can actually go and reverse the cycle, where instead of you trying to sell, imagine the power if they come and buy you. They come to Burj Khalifa. That is the power of the personal branding. If that can be achieved, and we can all do it, it's a game. I'm saying it's a new way of playing the game. So you use our intellect, which we all have, and unfortunately, there is unfortunately, when I say unfortunately, there is a process, there is a science in the madness, because most people, unfortunately, cannot structure their thought process, because there is so much clutter in the universe. There is engagement vacuum, there is a meaning vacuum, and the attention span of humans now is 1 second less than a goldfish, they say. That's 8 seconds. So if you can imagine, if you can structure your thought process, and at the highest level in the English vocabulary, I can prove it to you. We can play a game, but here, if you want, there are only 10 words.